What's up guys, Houndish here, and today I've got some Destiny 2 news. We've got a little tease about raid gear coming in Destiny 2, as well as some corrected information about raid loadouts, which I'll talk about in a moment. I wanted to discuss a clip in the recent trailer that shows Commander Zavala. We also have a few more words and I guess kind of an update about Xbox One X and some gameplay changes for Destiny 2, so let's get into it. So firstly, yesterday I spoke about an article from PCGamesN.com where they spoke to a developer at Bungie who stated that there will be locked loadouts inside of hard mode raids. It turns out they actually got this wrong in the article. There was a misunderstanding during the interview, and that is not the case. So what we know so far, or the only activity we know so far that will have locked loadouts, will be the Nightfall Strike, and we've also heard about timers that we'll have in Nightfall Strikes. But Luke Smith actually popped up and corrected this information on Twitter, so he said raids in Destiny 2 don't have locked loadouts, so that's an unfortunate mistake on the behalf of the article. I apologize as well that that information was incorrect, but I obviously had no way of knowing that. Luke Smith did go on to say something pretty interesting though in this tweet. So he said, "What we don't want is this. I just got Midnight Coup to drop, let me quit to equip it and I'll rejoin." So obviously he's talking about how they don't want people to have to go through that process inside of hard mode raids, and obviously that would be a result of locked loadouts, but it actually refers to something called Midnight Coup, and this is some kind of drop inside of that activity, which is really interesting. And this particular spelling of coup is C-O-U-P, which of course is, you know, when you kind of overthrow whatever it is that has the position of power. So that's pretty interesting, considering he's specifically referring to the raid when he talks about this. It sounds like Midnight Coup could be a raid specific drop, perhaps a weapon or a piece of armor, could even be an exotic potentially. This actually got me thinking about the scene in the recent trailer where you see a bunch of Guardians kind of running through the city in the middle of the night, led by Hawthorne and Cade. Perhaps this refers to the Midnight Coup, could even be a play on words, because the scene immediately after has Cade holding a chicken, which of course is a completely different meaning and spelling of coup. You never know though. We could speculate for days about what this will be, but it's likely a piece of raid gear, armor, and exotic. It's going to be exciting to find out. Up next, I wanted to talk about another scene in the recent trailer. So we actually see Zavala in a number of kind of action scenes. We see him right here kind of kneeing this Cabal weapon, which fires it at the Cabal, which is pretty badass in its own right. But right at the end of the trailer, we see this right here, where you can see this Cabal kind of from this first person perspective, looking down, holding a weapon, and you do see just two hands right at the bottom right there. And this is actually Zavala's armor, and it looks like it could be actually in the same scene as the other clips that I just spoke about. So I thought this was worth pointing out. I don't want to really call this a spoiler because it doesn't guarantee anything is going to happen, but we could see Zavala die potentially. Remember back to the reveal in the Zavala trailer, it does talk about living and dying and being resurrected, which of course is kind of a key thing that you need to understand about Guardians. So I think Bungie are kind of preparing us for the idea that, you know, characters we know and love can actually die and potentially come back as well. So pretty interesting scene, definitely something to think about. Up next, I just wanted to point out that we do have some new PC beta gameplay from Gamescom. So this will be the updated build for the game. You know, we've heard about various changes that will be coming in future versions compared to what we played in the beta. I'm going to leave a link below to some 4K 60 FPS gameplay of the Inverted Spire, which looks absolutely fantastic. Definitely worth going and checking out. So when you watch the gameplay, it's fairly obvious that super energy has been increased, not, you know, vastly by some huge amount, but it is noticeable. Also, we see grenades and weapons doing a little bit more damage. Weapons in particular seem to have been improved, and you'll also notice a little bit more power ammo dropping compared to what I saw, at least inside of the Inverted Spire Strike in the console beta. So like I said, I will link that stuff down below and you guys can go and check it out. Definitely worth taking a quick look at. Now finally, I wanted to briefly mention and talk about the Xbox One X and Destiny 2. So when Bungie were asked about this, they said that the console wasn't available yet, they didn't have any information, they hadn't begun the process of looking at Destiny enhancements for the Xbox One X. And this is interesting because in a new Eurogamer interview with Mike Ybarra, I don't know how you say that, but he's the corporate vice president of Microsoft's gaming division. So Eurogamer asked, there are many games like Shadow of War and Assassin's Creed Origins, which you'd expect. But then there are games like Destiny 2 and Call of Duty World War II. Now, these games aren't currently on the list for enhancements. Is there anything you can say for Xbox fans who want the best versions of those games? And Mike replies, I'd say that we are working with all developers, including the ones you named, to make sure the best versions are on Xbox One X, and it's up to them when they actually want to talk about what, if anything, they are doing. And the article actually asked about limitations, and what he's referring to is, having exclusives, how, Call of Duty and Destiny have got some kind of PlayStation exclusivity. Is that actually holding Microsoft back? And the Microsoft guy says he can't comment on any limitations that they might have. So what I take from that is that according to them, they have presented, the information to the developers that they need in order to make enhanced versions, and Microsoft are actually waiting to hear back from any of the developers. Of course, in these interviews, they're always kind of skirting around questions, but it's interesting that Bungie kind of said the opposite and said that they didn't have any information. It was a console that they didn't know anything about yet. You can read into that whatever you want to, but it's worth me mentioning that Destiny 2 is not currently on the enhanced list for Xbox One X. So if you want to buy an Xbox One X for 4K gaming and everything like that, and it's primarily for Destiny, for example, if that's something you've got in mind, then it's worth knowing that currently there aren't any plans to actually enhance that game. Obviously, down the road, it will probably happen in some respect. I would imagine we'll see 4K. We'll probably basically see what you see on the PlayStation Pro. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys anyway, and bring this quick update with a few interesting things you might want to know about. If you have enjoyed this video, guys, a like below is very much appreciated. If you're new to this channel, be sure to hit subscribe if you want to see a lot more Destiny 2 content. But for now, I appreciate you guys watching as always, and I'll catch you very soon.